Okay, so welcome to my audience, to what I now call Vantage Point Conversations, where I get to have very interesting conversations with people that I probably wouldn't get to meet on a day-to-day basis. So today, my guest is Ryan Harland. So Ryan, my opening monologue is always the same. I never introduce any of my guests because I feel that I would do a very bad job. So would you mind just taking a moment, however long you want, short, long, I don't really mind, just to introduce yourself, any highlights, lowlights, anything you think is useful for people to know a bit more about you, and then we can just dive into the conversation.
Well, first of all, thank you, Colin, for having me on this live. It's a privilege. Obviously, my name is Ryan Harland. I am an author of a book called Riding the Storm. It talks about my life, the struggles I faced and witnessed, and that, and my downfalls in life, and how I turned it around to be the person I am today. And I share my story to help and inspire other people out there who may have been through similar, or just to help them look at the world in a different way, and to realize that it doesn't matter what you go through in life or how old you are, you can still make a difference in your life and other people's lives. And you need to learn that your past doesn't define you. You define who you are every morning when you wake up. So it's just about having that positive mindset, and to realize that nothing you go through should affect you negatively for your future.
Nice. So first of all, congratulations on writing a book. That can't be been an easy thing. Um, and as you were talking, I was wondering, did you use the book as a sort of therapy in a way? Because I've been through therapy, and we can talk about that in a second. But what was the driver behind it? Did you find it therapeutic? What was it for you?
Oh, it's definitely therapeutic. It helped me immensely. Like, obviously, I've been through counselling and psychotherapists all most of my life, but I found like this was the thing that helped me the most, because I was getting my whole story out on paper. It was getting it out of my head for the first time. Obviously, I told a few people before, but to get it actually written on paper, that was a huge release. It was easy and hard at the same time, because obviously you reliving certain situations that you've been through. But I found that by talking about it and putting it on paper, it helped me. And I thought, wow, this is great. And I thought that was going to be it. I was going to write the book and leave it and just move on with my life and just be an average man, to be honest. But it's weird that that book's led me on to be the person I am now, and I get to do this, talk to you, other people all around the world. I've spoken prisons, conferences, schools, you name it. I've spoke there, and that's what I want to do full time. Share my thoughts and feelings to help and inspire other people, especially men, surrounding mental health and that. Too many men these days don't open up because they feel like it's going to be too unmasculine to cry, to share how you feel and things like that. So that's the stigma I want to change.
Oh, I love that. I think in terms of writing that down, that's quite a powerful thing, because we often exist in our heads, and we'll come on to sort of talking about and listening, but actually so much exists in our head. Sometimes I know in the past some things have happened that have only existed in my brain. I've imagined conversations or things, or things get in the way, or things block stuff. And by getting it out in some way, one form or another, talking about it, or writing it down, I know people either love or hate journaling, but um, in terms of getting that out and seeing the words in front of you, that's actually a very powerful thing. And so the fact that you've been able to do that, and like you said, you've had support from therapy, etc., but to be able to write it down and be able to go through that, like you say, I'm sure that was very painful to relive some of those earlier memories. But congratulations on doing that. And I think if we were more like you, the ability to write things down or talk, or just to bring it out of our brains, I think we would actually be quite shocked of how much other people are going through. And like you said, I don't think we talk enough about it, or we don't listen. Maybe people are trying to say something and we just sort of gloss over it because it's either going to make us feel uncomfortable. So there's many angles, but I think it all starts with getting it out of your brain, one form or another. um how does that sit with you? You found that in your own world?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Then it's weird that I kept so much in for most of my life, because you feel guilt, shame, you feel like no one's going to believe you with the things you're thinking or feeling or what you've been through and that. And the thing that was a tipping point for me and made me change my ways was when I went to group therapy back at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. That when I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder through everything I've been through, for the trauma and things like that, I realised that going to group therapy, I was the only male there, and I was in a room full of other women, and I was single at the time, so part of me loved it, being the only man in a room full of women. I loved it, but it's something that stuck with me every day since. I was like, why am I the only man there? Why am I the only male who wants to go and get help and that? And I think that kind of opened the floodgates for me to start talking and to help and inspire other men so they can have them fill them spaces that I was in and things like that. So it's been hard. Like you said, it was hard, breaking up old ground, that some of the darkest memories that I've ever experienced and things like that. But I knew that it had to be done to show how powerful it can be by opening up. And also, like you said earlier on, that you have conversations in your own head. Sometimes you think, are they real or not real? So by putting them down on paper, you can see if something was real or it was just your head playing games. You know what I mean? Get it on paper, you can see the difference, and that kind of clears everything as well. So I just wanted to show the importance of speaking and opening up, and that's what I've done with the book, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, I love that, and it does take courage, especially when you're one of the first. I think we are slowly seeing more and more people speak out. I know often sometimes when I've seen on social media when someone has a platform and you think that they're successful, but they've often struggled with something, and they might turn that just to sort of say, okay, it's not as rosy as it is, and maybe talk about something in their past. So I think it is coming, but I don't think, and we can talk about males. I don't know quite what it is. I think it's that masculinity thing. I don't know if it's all culture or how it is. I think there's many different aspects, different angles that we think it's not okay, almost like it's not safe um, to say what's actually going on. And I think it's very brave of you to be one of the first, especially in that group, to actually say those things. And it, you know, I think back to like the school playground where I don't know if that's where it starts, but if you were to cry, that's that sort of got carried with you for the rest of your school career. Um, and if anything happened, that was like how you got nicknames and stuff like that. We've never really grown out of that. But in that world, there's so much, because almost at that young age, you're told to be quiet or hold things in. And I've often found that some of the stuff in my past, it's nowhere in comparison of obviously the things that you had to go through. But I realized that I kind of went through different stages in my life, and I had to almost go back to the beginning to understand what those things were and kind of unpack them a little bit and just go, okay, what's that? What's that? And I went through different stages of trying to not blame other people, but I was like, well, why am I not this? Why am I not that? And then so I went back into my past, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not like that because my parents, never gave me the confidence or something like that. And I think I was looking for other people to blame. And then that moved on, and I moved away from feeling like a victim to actually going, I'm quite tired of that. I'm actually in control of my life. It allowed me to understand I process stuff with a child's brain.
Mm.
Most of the time, that's done to protect us more than anything else. So either it covers it up or shows it in a different way. A whole, it's like a survival mechanism. And then we carry that story often in adulthood. And that journey from childhood to adulthood, we often haven't had the chance to talk about it with parents, caregivers, brothers, sisters. We almost maybe felt ashamed, or we just didn't have that structure around us where it was safe to talk about that sort of stuff. But doing it now, I actually I feel that clearing all that stuff out and understanding it has allowed me to not start a brand new, but just go, oh, okay. And when things come up, realize, oh, that's a trigger, or that's something that's going on. Oh yeah, that's not serving me. Oh, that's an old script, or the way that my brain likes to process it. And it's built this awareness in me that I don't feel as held back. Um, and I don't feel that I'm a victim anymore. I feel much more in control of myself and my options, uh, and that's a very freeing experience.
Wow,
Was
wow, that's awesome, mate. That really is. That's a big step to take, to realise that you can't blame other people, you can't blame yourself. It's that realization. Say, right, okay, that was then. This is me now. I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to change the narrative, and I'm going to start looking and seeing things differently and accept the way you are. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
No one's perfect. We've all got our own faults and things like that. And too often we look in ourselves when we've done something wrong and punish ourselves when you shouldn't, because you're only human just like everyone else. And that's a big thing to do, to realize that you are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to look at things differently to someone else. Don't compare yourself to other people as well, because that's a big thing. I've noticed that people compare. Like, this isn't a dig, but you said that your past nowhere compares to mine, but it shouldn't look like that. Your
yeah,
trauma is your trauma. My trauma is my trauma. Do you know what I mean? It's trauma at the end of the day. It should all be dealt the same way. You should have the same compassion, the same help, the same structure, the same everything. Compare, no matter what level you think it is.
yeah,
Too many people say, well, I won't speak up because it weren't as bad as him.
mm,
But it's the same. Do you know what I mean? It's no different. But
yeah,
so many people compare it. I think that's another thing as well. Why obviously some men and women as well don't speak up and think, well, it's only, don't really matter. It's only a little bit, but that little bit can grow later on in life, and
yeah,
it's going to be bigger then. So it's best to deal with it now than let it manifest and manifest over the years, and you can't go back and change it. If
yeah.
that makes sense.
It's I'm really touched that you said that, because yeah, it's kind of made me a bit emotional, because yeah, we do that thing, we do that comparison, we do that, okay, and then we be quiet. It's almost like I can't talk about that because it's not in the same league. But the fact, yeah, the way that you said that was beautiful, and I think
Yeah.
that's it's so important, and because something small can grow very quickly in our minds, or we just can't get past it. And I've often looked at things, the way I've seen it is like our memories are like these big strings in our brain, and we get like a knot, something has happened. And what therapy allowed me to do is go back and untie those knots. And there's maybe multiple knots, you have to untie the first one to get back and back. But I've often found by untying those knots, it's allowed me to see things differently. And I'm glad that I've done all of those, and I feel freer, and because of it. So, and it shouldn't have that comparison thing. It's something that's blocking for me, and if I can
Mm.
unblock it, great. I can go on and do something great, and if that's through talking or doing something, like you say, the structures, the support, yeah, absolutely, what it is. And if you get caught on that block and it becomes this massive thing, I don't know, you're not going to live the life that you
No.
could. And yeah, you almost owe it to yourself to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't a dig at you. I was just trying to
No, no,
explain
no.
that I don't like it when people compare. When I've done talks before, and people come up to me after and say, "Oh, I'm so proud of you for getting up and that. I've had this, but it's nowhere near as bad as yours." I'm like, but it doesn't matter. I'm only doing this because I feel the importance of sharing this to help other people to open up. I'm not expecting to go up on stage and tell the world and that. That's maybe not them. But for them to go and get that help that they need and go and speak to one person, or just tell their wife or their husband or their friend or the sister or brother, do you know what I mean? Just tell one person, that one conversation can make a huge difference just by one person, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It frustrates me a bit because when people, like I said, compare, and I'm like, you shouldn't compare. And I don't share my story to get sympathy from other people. Say, I'm so proud of that. I just want people to take something away from it so they can use it in their life. And
Yeah,
so it doesn't build up, like you say, that knot. But the longer you go, the tighter it's going to pull and the harder it's going to be to undo that. So the sooner you can do that, the rest of your life, hopefully, will be not free. Or I say won't be not free because we all go have ups and downs and trouble sent our way. That's just nature, unfortunately. But the more loose your rope is, the more freedom you've got to deal with the next
yeah,
problem. And you know how to face this when you didn't know how to face it before. Do you know what I mean? I face problems in my life now. It's different for me, I guess, because I've got BPD, so my emotions are 100% no matter what. When I'm happy, I'm bounce off the walls. When I'm down, I'm bloody miserable. So it's hard for me in that respect. But I know there's something inside me that say, well, I will get through this because I've got through it before. I will find a way to deal with it. I might not know it now, but give it time. I will find that solution to get through it. And it won't be as bad as what this says. Because that's the problem
yeah,
as well. People make things up here too much, or they think the worst and everything. I do, but not so much now. I did for a while, and then when it come to it, I thought, well, it wasn't bad as what I thought. Why did I build up so much in my head and my stomach when I could have just dealt with it? So it's about facing everything head on. I'd
yeah,
say, just go for it, and whatever comes your way, you'll deal with it and find a solution.
yeah. I actually sort of want to talk about so it's borderline personality disorder, right? And
Hmm.
in our conversation we had before doing this live, I really dislike the term disorder. It sounds horrible and horrendous to me. But something you just said about actually talking to someone, be that your parents, friends, partner, etc. I think something sat in my mind there, and I was like, yeah, because if you don't talk about it, the other people don't know what's going on, and they don't know. Oftentimes we don't need help, we just need to explain something that's going on. And I was wondering how many relationships have broken down because that one party is actually holding on to something almost to protect the other side, or to think that it's not a big deal. But I've often found when you ignore the thing that's actually bothering you, it comes out in another way, comes out in some subconscious way or some weird behavior that I'm doing or something like that. And in the end, you end up talking about that, which has nothing to do with the thing that was the problem in the first place. And actually, if you can find the courage. I don't know, courage. I don't know if that's the right word, to talk about that thing and then share that. Then people around can better understand. And that's not to put labels on things or just say, oh, okay, well, that's the way it is. Because I know we've talked before and you said, people seem to sometimes, put things in to say, oh, well, that's to do with your, or you, how you are. And I don't think that's okay. I don't think to put, just to sort of say, oh, well, that's just the way you are. And I don't think that that's okay. But I think with all of this, we're about talking, about allowing other people in and to understand our heads. First of all, it gets it out of our head. And it also, for the people around us that love us and care, to understand maybe how that looks through our eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a great example about that, which I should have done years ago before I'd done all this. I was struggling, obviously losing my brother and things like that. The police trial we was going through. Instead of talking to my ex-wife, obviously was my wife at the time, I kept everything bottled up. Then went and had the affair that ruined the marriage. Do you know what I mean? And I should have spoken up and told her that I was struggling with everything going on, but I had to keep a brave face because my mum had just lost her firstborn, and with the police trial and everything like that, that to me that was more important than what was going on inside me, and that was wrong. Do you know what I mean? The marriage was never going to last anyway, but I could have ended it properly instead of doing the worst thing ever and paid the price for years after that. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy, but yeah, if you could find someone to talk to, just saying it might sound absolutely mental, but you've said it, then the person can decipher it or just say, well, what does that mean? And you can try and explain it a bit more. But if you can get someone who can listen to you, but probably listen, don't tell you that you're right or wrong and that, because that's the worst thing you can do. They've got to work that out themselves at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Because that's their feelings. It might be right, might be wrong, but that's down to them. You can't tell someone you're wrong to feel like that or whatever. But if you can find someone who's going to listen to you without judging, that's going to make a huge difference. It really will.
Yeah. How did that help you? What did that give you?
I felt like I was just like everyone else. When I spoke last couple of years, obviously writing the book and doing this and that, and obviously meeting my now wife, my second wife, which she's my best friend. If I have a bad day, she listens to me, she doesn't judge, and then we talk about it and it's done. And then we move on. But before that, people used to replay my bad day over and over and over again, punish me for it. And that was the worst thing. And it made me withdraw from society, made me didn't want to be around these people because I felt like you're punishing me for something that I can't control or because I'm saying how I'm feeling and things like that. But now I can say how I feel. She doesn't take offense. Yeah, we argue like every other couple. Do you know what I mean? It's natural. But she knows the difference when I'm frustrated or trying to say something how I'm feeling, or it's an argument. Do you know what I mean? She knows how the difference.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling in the world. I feel like I'm another human being. I don't feel an outsider anymore like I did for years. And yeah, it's a great feeling. It really is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think when something feels good, it encourages you to do more of it, right? And you just go, yeah, I'm going to talk about it. And it's difficult to talk about the things that are in our head sometimes because especially with the people that we love, because we don't want them to look at us and think, oh dear. But that ability to be with someone that can hold that space and just listen to you, but also understand you as a person. And again, these are, I understand there are labels that we have, and certain things that, or conditions that we say that we have. But I think that's useful in some regards because it can help us understand ourselves a little bit better. But it can also be used for us to put excuses in our way. And
Mm,
I remember this from my past. So when I was a kid, I had very narrow airways, like pipes. I had ear infections, a whole load of stuff. And I remember running a school. We had a school sports day, and uh, I thought I was going to win it, and I was doing really well, and I was convinced I was going to win. And then I just sort of not ran out of breath, but I think I became a bit too confident that I was going to win. And then all of a sudden I didn't, and then loads of people won, and I almost came last. And I remember speaking to my mum, and I used to have this like a almost like an asthma pump, and like doctors had said, "Oh, you've got these small airways," and and my mum said, "Oh, yeah, well, you couldn't win because of all your airways are small," and I took that for most of my life of that's how it was, and I just had this image of myself, and I was just like, well, yeah, and it was almost I used it as an excuse if things weren't going okay in physical world, like if I was doing anything, and then and I almost forgot about that. And I'm quite into sports. I quite like running, swimming, just almost for my mental health more than anything else.
mm.
And I'm like, but that script was in my mind for a long time. It held me back, and I used it as an excuse or a justification. And what I love about our conversation and the one we had before, you have this condition, and it's more about understanding what that is and understanding yourself. And I think you almost use it as a thing to say, well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't. You understand it, but you're going on. You don't use that as an excuse. You go, no, that's cool, that's good, and I'm going forward. And if that pops up, okay, let's deal with it. And I love that about it because I think too many people like myself can put things, these labels, in front of actually doing something and achieving something almost as a justification. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. I think that was one of the reasons why I started running years ago myself, and I run the London Marathon in 2017, 18, and 19, just to prove to myself that, yeah, I've been through all that crap, but I still done this. Do you know what I mean? It was like you better yourself every day. You try and better the version of you yesterday. And yeah, there's going to be limitations. There's going to be different paths to reach that goal that someone else took a shorter cut and things like that. But it doesn't matter. It's about getting there and getting to that finishing line, no matter what. And it's kind of just pushed me on for the rest of my life since then, I guess, writing this book and going to that therapy really saved and changed my life. It shifted my mindset because I was like, oh, well, was me for years. I thought like I was always going to be miserable. I always thought I was going to be angry. I thought I'd never amount to anything. But now I talk to people all over the world, share my story. Do you know what I mean? The younger Ryan would never have thought that. I thought, I was going to be worthless. It's all because I've got BPD and what I went through, and it sounds a bit weird, but I'm grateful that I've been through some of that stuff because it's made me who I am today. I don't know what type of person I would have been if I hadn't been through that. Would I still be the quiet, shy, wouldn't mount to anything, Ryan, or would I have been completely different? I don't know. And I don't care because I love who I am now. It's
Mm.
taken a long time. I'm 49 this year, but it's taken a long time, but it was worth it. I've got so much life experience. Why not share it to help others? And I'm jealous of people who are younger than me and getting to this stage. I think, why don't I do this sooner? But it wasn't the right time for me. Do you know what I mean? My
Yeah.
journey and pathway was a lot longer than some of these people, but I know I'm going to be wiser because I've had more life experience than that person, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's I've often, like, sometimes in the moment when things have not been the best situation for me, I've sort of gone, why is this happening? This is terrible. And someone asked me the other day, would I change? What would I change? And I wouldn't change anything because I wouldn't
No.
understand. We certainly wouldn't be having this conversation. I think I've heard this many times. They say life happens for you rather than to you. And if you can switch that, there's a lesson in a lot of things. And I, I'm very grateful for those things that, I also had an affair and I caused a lot of pain for my ex-wife and family. And I, that that was horrible, and I really disliked myself for that. But it's taken a while. I'm just okay with myself, and I think a lot of this is about accepting who we are. And you said it earlier, we're human. We are. If we think that we're perfect, we're on a hiding to nothing because those
Mm.
expectations are just never. You're never going to live up to those, and you shouldn't, because if that's your goal, then life should be about joy, talking, enjoying it, taking all the beauty in it, trying to help other people, a whole load of things. And if you're self-consumed with trying to be perfect, you will never connect with anyone, right? And I think that's one of the great things about you connect with a lot of people because you are yourself and you're authentic. And I've said this to you before, but I think some of the most successful people are authentic because they're in this world being themselves. They're not trying to be anyone else. And that's, I think so many people are trying to be someone else. And so actually in many ways you're ahead of the curve because you've gone through this and your process was your process, but it's almost allowed you to be grateful for who you are and go on. And I think that in itself is a gift. It's not obviously great the things you've had to go through to get there, but where you are now, you can go and help loads of people. Like you said, you can go and talk to people and you can talk to them from a place of authority and authenticness. And that, rather than someone who, studied the theoretical side of things, who can go, yeah, I read this in a book, that means nothing. You can actually explain day to day how that shows up, how things work, and how, as a human, you would want to be treated. And that, I know you work with companies and you want to build in the well-being program, but it comes from a place of, okay, I'm not just going to say, yeah, you got to do this and this, put a pool table in for well-being. It comes from a genuine human place, and you can understand that, and that's raw, and it's I think oftentimes only if you've lived some of those things that you will really understand it.
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for sharing that bit about what you have done in the past, because not many people admit that, especially on live, so I'm grateful for you to trust me with that. And obviously, other people watching, that takes a lot of balls to do that and to admit, yeah, you made a mistake. But look, it was for the right reasons, but the wrong way, if that
Yeah,
makes sense,
yeah,
and I get that. And I hope too many people didn't punish you for that, but I'm guessing they did because they punished me for years and years and years for one mistake, and I regret it, but I can't go back. But it was the right decision, but the wrong way about it, and
mm,
I hope that you realise that and you're not still punishing yourself. I
yeah.
can
So
see you might be a little bit, but
I, I think I punish myself more than needed to be, and I think I felt that was justified. And it's only recently I've tried to let that go and be okay with myself. And it's really strange because the moment you accept that is the moment almost other people are easier on you. It's a weird
mm,
dynamic,
yeah,
but I think it's almost a mirror. How you behave and how you think about yourself is how people mirror and act towards you. And so yeah, it was again, all of that is a learning curve, and I think, yeah, I was trying to justify myself. I often saw myself as a good person, and a lot of people wrote me off because of that. They didn't even have a conversation with me, and I kind of get it, but yeah, one of the big things that actually changed for me is that I was an inherent people pleaser. I always wanted to please, and I went out of my way for people to like me.
Me too, mate. Me too.
And actually, when that happened, it was almost like a light bulb moment, because I'd spent a lot of time trying to get people to like me. Inevitably, you can do one thing that basically people, you know, make you almost the worst person in the world, and cut you out. Don't want to talk to you. I tried to reach out to people, they cut me out, and I was like, oh, okay. I put too much energy on that, and now I'm okay with a lot of it. So again, it's one of those lessons that um, it's painful to go through, not just for myself, for those people around me, but I learned a lot from it, and it was almost like this. It sometimes things have to be so dramatic for you to change the way that you are. It has to be almost, I don't know, I want to say biblical. That sounds horrible, like too grand, but and I was like, oh, okay. And if anyone had explained to me, stop being a people pleaser, I would have gone, yeah, yeah, and carried on being a people pleaser. But actually, what happened is I learnt the lesson the hard way, and I actually
Ah,
changed
oh,
my behaviour.
I was just battery just went on my laptop. I didn't turn it off the wall. On at the wall. I do apologise.
No, you're right.
Oh, bloody technology.
Yeah, that's
No,
why I like to.
I get what you're saying about the people pleaser. I've learned the hard way as well, but sometimes the hard way is the best way, because you're getting more benefit out of it at the end.
Mm.
And I've also learned over the years that people come and go in your life. Some are there for a good time, some are there for a long time, and some of them are there to get whatever they can out of you without giving anything. Then as soon as you say no or want something in return, that's when they distance themselves. So it says a lot about them, not you. I mean, for years, I thought I was the reason for everyone not wanting me in their life, or relationship breaking up, or this happened to me, that happened to me. I thought it must be me, but it's not. It's always, obviously, it's me making decisions sometimes, but do you know what I mean? It's not, you're not the fault to everything or everyone's problems. They've got to claim responsibility for themselves, and so on and so on. Do you know what I mean? It's, and then people who distance themselves from you when you done what you did, that's just, I think, because they heard one side of the story. There's always two sides of the story. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you was a naughty boy. I'm telling you off now. Well, I'm telling myself off as well. You was a naughty boy, but there was reasons why.
Yeah.
People forget that. They just think of, well, he's done this, we've got to punish him. Forget about the other side. There's always the reasons why people make decisions in life. Two sides to the story. That needs to be remembered as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's actually a very interesting point, which we can actually switch into talking about well-being at work.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
I know that's actually, what you're trying to get into, and that space can be very difficult, because, and like we talked before, well-being is one of those topics where, companies love to stick it on their website. Yeah, well-being, staff well-being is a priority. Again, it's just this tick the box. When you actually go and speak to these people, they don't care. They just, it's just a way to attract people. But actually, inside the culture and the support system and all of that doesn't work. And I think it has to be almost part of a value. And I've often found that the people that are the best at thinking about people's well-being are the ones that actually look after themselves. So maybe you found a CEO who was okay, look, yeah, I need to take extra holiday, or yeah, I leave at 5 or whatever, and can set that tone for other people. And that is almost built in, and it's through actions rather than words. And I think if you find that, that is a big indicator for me that a company really does think about well-being. And I think uh, it's so much the other way. Companies don't think that. They go, yeah, well-being is one of those things, and we'll have, I don't know, like a quiet room or a room you can go to sleep in. But it's much deeper than that. It's much more about understanding and that place to talk and listen, and that, you can't just have someone pop in every once in a while and go, oh, is everything all right? You need to understand your people, understand and connect and see what's going on, because you might just turn up at a place and everyone's okay, but the next day someone's not okay, and it may be that same group. So you need to have that system, that understanding, that ability, and that needs to be woven into the company, into the people, and looking out for each other, and having, I don't know, I want to say like some sort of structure or some sort of program or something. So is that your experience? I know you're trying to get in with a lot of companies. What have you faced? What have you seen? What do you think's changing? Where do you think that is?
I can only go with my own experiences from the past. Now, when I was going through all the crap with the police and losing my brother and that, and the affair, all that stuff. When I was at this job for over 21, 22 years, and they wouldn't give me any time off. When I went to my counselling, they gave me I was allowed to go, but I had to make the hours up afterwards. But then I was working with an alcoholic who used to take every Monday off and never got disciplined. And I was like, well, hold on a sec, this isn't my choice. I'm trying to make myself better. But then someone went to the dentist and let them have that time off, and they didn't have to make it up. I'm like, this ain't fair. I had a couple of meltdowns at work, and then the last one I had, they pulled me into an office and said, look, if this happens again, we'll have to escort you off site, full pay, but do an investigation. I'm like, but why? It's something I can't control. You know everything about it. You know what I've been through, blah, blah, blah. And yet again, like, I'm working alongside an alcoholic, and there was none of that threatening and things. I'm like, the injustice in this, I'm like, you've got to be a bit flexible here, give me a bit of leeway. I'm not going to take the crap or the mickey out of it, just a bit of understanding. That's all it takes, understanding, to make that person feel heard and understood. You're going to get a better work ethic out of them, because they feel like, well, I'm going to go back there because I might not enjoy the job, but at least I know I feel hurt. I felt heard there and understood and wanted to be around, that I'm going to give more back into it. Because some men, can't talk at home. Their problems might be at home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their relationship might not be great. So that's the only place they can talk. So they're going to go and talk to their mates, because men don't talk to men and that. So they need somewhere that they're going to feel safe, heard, and understood, and not not fixed, because you can't fix anyone, but you just got to give them that space to free up what's in their mind, so they can decide, right, what can I do now? What bit can I sort out first? That's all it takes. Something simple like that, and it has a knock-on effect. If that person becomes a better human being, then the family around them are going to become better, because that person's not so stressed or angry or manipulative or whatever anymore. Then the kids are going to have a better time at school, because home life's better, and their friends are going to have a better life, because they're going to want to socialise with that person more. So it's that ripple effect again. You just put one stone in that water, it's going to go out. That positivity is going to go out even further.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we talked about this before, when we were talking about doing this live, but a lot of this stuff is like intangible. You can't see it, and I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of companies won't put a budget into it, because they go, oh, okay. And I've always said this: and it's not necessarily about well-being. It's you can be the best person in the company. You could be, smashing it for like 30 years, give everything to that company. And one day someone's just going to look at a spreadsheet and they're going to say, yeah, that doesn't add up anymore. They don't know you, don't know anything about you, and they'll make you redundant. So I understand data, and people say data is important, but there's so much that exists outside of data, how people feel, and just because you're showing up, just because you're in work doesn't mean that your mind's on the job. It can be somewhere else. So people go, oh, okay, this person has turned up, but actually they might be messing up all over the place because they haven't got the ability to talk to someone. But again, to your point, if you come to work and someone's given you a space, maybe to talk or express or whatever that is, you're going to feel this gratitude, and you're going to give back, right? And that might result in, being, coming into work when previously you would have gone, oh no, I'm going to be sick because I actually can't deal with today, whatever that is. And you go, oh, I'm going to go to work because there is someone there, or there's something in place where I can go and talk to someone. So I remember this example. So I worked in this company, and this person was having a very bad day, and you could tell, and she wasn't doing what she needed. She was all over the place, and we just sat down. I had no agenda. Um, I wanted to talk to her about stuff, and she had so much going on in her brain that it was just absolute mess. And I said, oh, well, let's just sit down and we can talk about it. Like, what's bothering you? And all the stuff that was bothering her um, was like a load of stress and stuff like that. And she got that out of the way, and then there was something underneath. And I was like, well, let's go and fix that. And it was something very simple we could do together quite quickly. We fixed that. Do you know what? She was so happy, and it was something that she could put into her life that made her day-to-day stuff so much easier and happier. And what that gave her was just this energy of being seen. We actually changed her. It took, I don't know, all in all, say an hour and a half from the conversation to actually doing and stuff like that. There was no cost in terms of I didn't have to give her money or anything like that. And it was the simplest thing, but it was just making the time, listening, and then letting her speak. And then we go, okay, well, what out of that is most important for you? And she could make a decision. We went and solved it, an hour and a half. Like,
Wow.
and then she was super happy. She will tell you that story today. She will remember that. And that's what we can't put on a spreadsheet. We don't put that, this person helped me and how it made me feel. But you could see afterwards also, I saw her in the afternoon. She was so happy. She was going about her work. And you go, yeah, it's very simple. We overcomplicate it sometimes. But like you say, it just took a moment to go and speak to that person and listen. And that listening part, I think we get badly wrong. We think we're
Oh,
listening, but we're
definitely.
actually talking. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well done for spotting that. Do you know what I mean? Because not a lot many people would spot things like that. They'll
Yeah.
just ignore the fact and think, oh, look at that lazy cow, or she's mucking up today, yeah, whatever. She better change her ways because otherwise she's going to lose her job. And that, bang, off. They're off someone else, and that person's left
Mm.
alone. If you can spot things like that, great. You can not nip them in the bud, but Johnny, you can deal with them before they get to a further point in life, and that and that person might not have reached out if you hadn't have gone and spoke to her. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. You need to make it clear that there's going to be a place that's going to be safe to hear. You're going to get heard.
Yeah.
Listening does save lives. It really does.
Yes.
But like you said as well, we need to learn to listen properly. Give that
Yeah.
person opportunity. Don't butt in. Don't tell them they're wrong or this or that. Just let them get off their chest. Let them breathe for a couple of minutes, and then ask them questions about it. Right? what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What bit can we look at first? You know, don't say, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Because they've got to find their own way. You can't give them the solution. They've got to work it out themselves, unfortunately, but that's the only way you're going to deal with these problems. But you can be that support. You can hold
Yes.
their hand for that moment. Just hold
Yeah.
someone's hand for that moment, or give them a cuddle. You know, that makes a huge difference afterwards. And or just say, I'm proud of you for opening up. I'm proud of you for sharing that. To you, it might not make sense. To me, it might not make sense, but it's a relief for you. Now you've put all that out there. Now you can put it in order to say, right, I can sort that one out first. They're not as important at the moment. That one is. But
Yeah.
when it's all in your head, it's all getting mixed up and you don't know which to sort out first.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you were talking, I was thinking, in most companies, that sort of job of, trying to support, the teams or the individuals is often left to managers or supervisors or whoever, but they've got their own stuff going on. Why? And they have their own agenda, be that a good thing or a bad thing. They've got to produce results or something like that. Whereas if you have someone independent, someone that's not tied to the day-to-day stuff, that people can go and see, go and talk to, what an amazing gift. You can go, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, look, I just booked this appointment. Someone's around, you can just go and, yeah, okay, let's go. What an amazing gift.
mm,
And people think that this costs a lot of money. I don't really think it does, but the problem is we said this before, that we see well-being as a cost. It's actually an investment. And excuse me, when we see if you took the amount of sick days, etc., off, look at that. What's that costing you? What's efficiency costing you? And you can't always put that onto a spreadsheet. So it's a very strange area that people overlook. But knowing that your staff can have someone in that company to come and talk to share, it's not about fixing people's problems. People don't need to be fixed. People do need to take responsibility for their own lives, etc. But having someone there that can hold that space and listen to you, and you can just go, okay, yeah, cool. Like, what an absolute gift.
mm.
And productivity, like people attending work, or just that general feeling. Just imagine that person is on, like, I don't know, customer services, and they've come to see you. They had a problem, and then they've talked it through. Then they're in a better headspace. They go and talk to the next client, and you go, oh yeah, the answer that they gave in the afternoon to the client was really happy. Yeah, they've signed up for to be a client for a lot longer. It has, like you say, this ripple effects, but no one can quantify it. No one really measures it. We just see this well-being thing as a cost, and when times are hard, it's the first thing that goes out the window.
You're so right. It's crazy. I've been doing some research on this lately because obviously that's the road I want to go down as well. And I've read a statistic that if a company puts £1 in, they're going to get £5 back for something like that. You put £1 into proper well-being, you're going to get £5 every time you put a pound in, because you're going to, like say, less sick days, less lateness, less everything, Joe, more productivity, more people turning up, more willing to overtime, because they feel like they're going to give back to that company that's looking after them, not financially. Yeah, money's great, but your well-being is more important than finances, surely, because we all go up and down with finances, but it's the well-being that's there 24/7. That should be your main priority as a company. Obviously doing a job at the same time, you want to earn a profit. I understand that. But if you can look after your staff properly, you're going to get so much in return. Just putting that £1 in for each person, you're going to get £5 back every time, because, like I say, productivity and things like that.
Yeah. I think there's so much waste. I mean, I worked in corporates for a long time. There is so much waste and so much stuff, legacy things that companies put too much emphasis on that doesn't actually deliver. It actually is just a big drain, running reports that for a client that no longer needs to be done. But we're happy to spend money on those things. But when it comes to staff well-being and putting in, maybe coaches or, I don't want to say therapy sessions. These are not the things that are going to fix it. But just these things that where people understand people and they feel good about it. They've got access to that sort of as an outlet. I think it's such a misunderstood thing, because in preparation for this conversation, I was thinking about why is things different, because I was thinking about my dad, and he went to work all of his life, every single day, but that's very old school. He started work in a time where you could smoke at your desk and there was a load of paper so computers became more of a thing towards the end of his career and stuff like that. But I think the way that work has evolved has been very different. We're switched on more than ever. Technology is everything. We've got demands. We're always available, even when we're supposed to switch off. We go home and we don't have that disconnect that we used to. And then it always seems we've got to deliver more and more and more. And so I'm not saying that the working life that my dad went through was easy, because it wasn't. I think there was obviously demand, but the whole shape of the way that we work and what we're trying to do, and society and everything, that's evolved. But the way that we treat people at work has not. It's not changed or evolved to align with that. And so my dad never complained about going to work. He just did it. But he came home and he never talked about it. And my mum used to say to me, "Oh, I wish like your dad would explain like what's going on, because if he wants to have a bit of a shout or he's had a rough day, that's fine. You could pre-warn me." And she goes, "And then if he lost his rag, then it would be okay and you'd understand. But when he doesn't, and then it comes out in some other way," she says, that's strange. But again, my dad didn't have that outlet. He didn't have those things. Whereas we're so much smarter. We've got all these options. We understand much more about ourselves than we've ever done before. Yet we're not bringing that into the workplace. And that just seems crazy to me. Just, why would you not do it? Because like you've said, how much do you get from someone that really feels valued? They're going to give it back. Like you said, £1 in, £5 back. Like, why would you not invest in that?
Too many companies these days just treat you like a number. They feel like, one leaves, we're going to get another one. Do you know what I mean? You're replaceable. It shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't be replaceable. You should be wanted to be kept, wanted to come in every day and work your best to help them, and they help you. It's a team effort, but companies these days, you're not a team. You're down this level and they look down at you. Like you were saying about obviously finances and things like that. You see people arranging wellbeing days, like going paintballing and things like that. They're great, but there's no talking. It's just a day out because you're team building with the company, but the managers and that never go. So it's just all the low staff that go to these things. So you just bonded with the people that you bond with every day. And there was an incident at my wife's job a couple of years ago that they needed some money. She works in a school, needed some money for a new shed for a forest school and that, but they couldn't afford it. But all the executives that only visit the school once a year wanted a building for themselves to come down and visit. So they spent thousands of pounds on that, just for them to come and visit one day a year, when the thing that the kids needed, because it's a school, wasn't getting. And that's the problem with these companies these days. They look after the people at the top and forget about the ones at the bottom who are actually doing the job to keep you in the job. There's no comparison there, and it should all be one team.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually something I tried to do a while ago before I started to do these lives. I actually wanted to help leaders connect with their people because I often felt there was a big disconnect. And I was just thinking about your example about going paintballing. You should put all people together because just
Mm.
imagine you go and let's just take paintball. There's many different activities and stuff, but you go, okay, then you're on different teams, there's different dynamics, and you'll learn about something, and you'll go, yes, you're maybe forced to interact with people you don't normally speak to, but that brings down barriers. It
Mm.
allows you to go and speak to someone, and then maybe go for a few drinks afterwards. I know alcohol's not the best thing. It
No,
does bring
no.
down some social barriers, but I think especially from the UK, we seem to do it from an excess, and so there's a
Yeah.
fine line there, I think. But just being sitting next to like the manager or the manager sitting next to a guy that's actually doing the job, and that guy can say, yeah, we're doing this all wrong. If we changed X, Y, Z, we would we would increase productivity or whatever it is. Like, what a gift,
Mm.
and that combination, that relationship, that's what makes a great company. You just like not this divide, them and us. It's about, okay, seeing we're all human, and we've talked about this quite a few parts. There's nothing that separates a manager from a person that's doing the job. We're all human, but when we go into work, we seem to use those titles, use that hierarchy as a way to distance ourselves or feel superior or feel worse or however you want to do it. The goal should be just we're all human, okay? And I can do a great job, you can do a great job. Let's try and work together to do an even better job, not
Mm.
at odds. And I think, again, all of these things exist. And if you had someone in a company talking to these different people, maybe talking to the manager and they've got problems, and you're talking to the guy doing the actual job and they've got problems, you could be the connector between those. So there's so much in all of this well-being. It doesn't have to be, okay, you've got a problem that needs to be solved. There's so much value and you know insight and just return of great feeling and want and pride to work in a place just by putting something that we call well-being in place. But we don't see it like that. It has to be this tick the box. Yeah, we've got well-being. Yeah, we've got like a I don't know, pizza party on a Thursday or whatever, or pool table. That's not it. It's about humans, and you've said that multiple times. Huh?
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree with you there, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's frustrating to see, but hopefully we can change that narrative.
Yeah,
Strangle these companies. Do you know what I mean? To take care of their staff. Do you know what I mean? Because surely, if you see a family-run business, they're going to have a better work ethic because they're all on the same family, the same level. Do you know what I mean? So why can't other jobs be like that, or other companies? Obviously you're not going to be all family driven, but treat them like your family. Don't treat them like co-workers or numpties or whatever you want to call them. Hierarchy or whatever. Should all be family. You're all there for one purpose: is to make that business the best it can be.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think through having these conversations, I think there'll be people that can understand that either. And I say these about these lives. It's not. I don't give advice anymore. I used to, and I think I was doing that incorrectly. I think it's more about sharing ideas, concepts. And I think having this conversation with you today is a great thing because I'm sure there's a lot of people that think the same way or similar, and they want to change, they want things. And there might be people, so I've put a lot of founders and CEOs of companies, and these might even just be one person companies, but they might be growing. And I think it's a very good thing to start thinking about at the beginning of those things, how you want things to look like, and bringing values and and making a place where people want to work. And I think for a lot of the legacy firms, I think they're either don't want to change because most of the people at the top are quite old and go, well, I'm heading for retirement. I'm not going to rock this boat. I'm looking for my golden pension and I'm out. There are, I guess, companies that have been going a little while and need to sort of catch up, and might start thinking about that, and the mindset might be slightly different. And then I think there's maybe new companies, and I see definitely on LinkedIn a lot of smaller companies like starting up, and that's maybe where some of that can grow. And because some of these startups can grow very quickly, and maybe they can start at the beginning. So I hope this conversation helps people. I hope it either plants the seed or waters a seed that's already in people's minds, because you're a prime example of someone that wants to do a great job and thinks about things and has that human element. And we don't have that often in work. We think it's just about being robotic, but we're not. We're humans. There are robots for doing robot jobs, but we need humans for humans. And I think it's really important that we understand that and move towards doing that. So having people like you that want to help other people, I think that's such a great thing to have. So uh, yeah, I think that's is something that we should all look to try and bring into our companies.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that.
No,
It means a lot.
no, it's genuine, and I think yeah, I wish you all the success for it. So, I mean, I guess at the moment, how are things working for you? People reach out to you. So I know you talked about you've been doing speaking gigs and stuff like that. What's normally the next steps from there? Are people asking you to sort of come in and give them some advice, or is it just speaking at the moment? How's it work for you?
What it's been mostly at the moment is just been obviously sharing my story, just to encourage other people to open up and to, like I said at the beginning, that to show people that your past doesn't define you, you define who you are, and doesn't matter how old you are, what you've been through in life, you can still make a difference. That's what I've been doing. Obviously, I still want to continue doing that, but I want to start going into workplaces and that, just to try and work on them lines as well, to make a difference there. So it just kind of broaden my horizon, just get my lived experience out to as many people as I can, to be honest.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, where's the best place for people to find you? We came across each other on LinkedIn. Is that the best place, or do you have a website, or your
I've
book?
got
What's the
LinkedIn. I've got a website called Riding the Storm. The book's on Amazon called Riding the Storm. It's a funny thing here, Riding the Storm. But I've got a Facebook page, but LinkedIn mostly and my website are the best two ones to get. LinkedIn, I say, is probably number one. I do most of my time on there. That's the best place to find me. Just search me, send me a connection, send me a message, and we'll have a little chat. And if it doesn't come to anything, it doesn't. You might just want to chat because you want to talk. You might feel like you can't relate to anyone else, so you can feel like you relate to me. Perfect. Come have a talk. I'll listen to you.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what I do is I always repost these lives anyway. I mention you and I'll put all your links in that note. But I think thank you for this conversation. It's kind of reinforced something that I've believed for a long time, and sometimes I forget how important we are as humans. Thank you very much for holding the space for me to share some vulnerabilities. I don't often talk about that. I don't think I've ever talked necessarily about it on a live. So that says a lot about you, Ryan, and I do really appreciate you for that. And I think, again, congratulations for finding your authentic self. And I think that is, I see that as much more of a success than maybe other people that chase other things. And I think you doing that allows other people to be more authentic, and that in itself is an amazing gift. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm not often speechless, but thank you, mate. I mean that, and thank you for trusting me to open up and share what you've been through and things like that as well. That's a big step, and I'm just glad I was here to listen and to resonate with you and just to help you along today and hopefully from now on, mate.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. Fantastic. Well, for today, it's amazing. It was a blessing. I've got loads to think about, especially that comparison piece. I love that. I really need to go away and sort of embed that in my thinking, and I think that's really important for me. So, and I love conversations that allow me to think about something different. So, yeah, that was really important for me. So, thank you for today. Brilliant. We can always do a round two. Just let me know, and yeah,
I'm
we will
definitely
be
up
in
for that,
touch.
mate. I
Yeah.
love talking.
Nice, man. Nice. It's yeah, yeah. Well, maybe we do it in a couple of months and see where things are progressing, and yeah, we go from there.
Yeah, no, nice, mate. Yeah, just give us a shout and yeah, do this again. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely shattered. It's been a long day. I've been up since 2:30. And I need a fag and all. The live has ended, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 it has now. I'll end it, but yeah, that's it for me.
Let's be